Hi, thanks for being back with me today, Coach. Coach Burnside here once again. Excited today for the opportunity to talk to you about the different styles of coaching. And I don't know if you've ever thought about different styles or even thought about what your style is. And I can tell you we all have many different styles, right? We come in different shapes and forms, just as those that we coach come in different shapes and forms and different attitudes and different thought processes and whatever it might be. So you might be thinking, what is my style? Maybe you've thought about it, maybe you haven't thought about it, maybe you didn't even realize that there's certain styles out there. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to narrow it down to three styles in general. And I hope these three styles are going to help you understand why it is that we need to spend most of our time in a certain area as coaches. Because those that we coach, there's plenty of differences among our team, right? Those who are involved in our team, there's plenty of people out there that come in different styles with different attitudes, with different dreams and whatever it might be, right? So we get that, we understand that. But what's the best coaching style that's going to allow us to have the biggest impact, right? That's kind of what we're after. Every coach out there, one thing that every coach understands that they're after is they want to maximize those that are on their team. They want to have the best team that there is, and we covered that a lot in the last video, if you remember watching that and going through it. We covered a lot about the program and what we have to do in that program. So we want to have a great program, and we want to have great members within that program. And so here at the Academy, basically three things that I talk about a lot in the Academy in coaching is the 3 G's of coaching. I classify them in G's because number one, we start out in being the giddy coach. Number two that we're going to talk about today is the grueling coach. And the third type of coach we're going to talk about is the gratifying coach. So I know those are kind of some weird names, but 3 G's of coaching, it sounded pretty cool, right? So why not? Anyway, nonetheless, let's talk about those and see what they are. So I have some notes here today to go along to obviously help keep me on track. As most of you know, I can get way off track in talking when it comes to coaching, and I can talk for days on it. So I always get excited about it. And so here's the problem. Here's the problem with coaching in general or within our teams. And every team member comes with different personalities. Every team member has different desires, different dreams. Your team might be made up of a bunch of superstars, or maybe your team is just made up of individuals that maybe you have somebody on there that's cancerous. Maybe you have somebody on there that's a go-getter. Maybe you have somebody on there that brings a whole stack of different problems. So I get that and I understand that. And I wished I could tell you that there's one size fits all when it comes to coaching others, but there isn't. And what I want to do today is just hopefully get your awareness up to where the fact is that you're like, okay, now I understand if I spend most of my time in this lane, I'm going to have the biggest impact or make the biggest influence. So that's kind of what I'm after today. My biggest problem when I first really got into coaching and understanding coaching is one, I didn't know what my style was. I didn't know if I had a style. I just remember the last coach that coached me or those that had the biggest impact on my life. I remember kind of what I enjoyed in a coach, but I remember what I didn't enjoy about certain coaches, and I remember different places and what it was. So I was trying to compile all these thoughts and break it down to hopefully, put it on this video to help you understand as well as me of where we need to spend most of our time. So let's talk styles. The first style we're going to talk about is being the giddy coach. And when I talk about being giddy, I don't know what comes to your mind, but it's always that kind of fun guy, right? That guy that is always kind of screwing off during practice. The guy that always wants to have a party or, doesn't take anything too serious. And I'm pretty lighthearted when it comes to a lot of things, but when it comes to coaching, I think that this is one area that I think we can get in trouble with. And so the thing about the giddy coach, number one, is the fans love him, right? They think, oh, this is the perfect coach for my kid. He's going to make it fun, and it's going to always be exciting, and it looks like a big party. And I've known plenty of these coaches, and they coach more for the fans than they do for the individuals on the team. And so this is scary, right? This is scary because they never really understand what it is that the team members want. And I guarantee you have those people within your corporation that are always coaching for the fans, those people that are looking at them outside of the team. And everybody's like, man, that person looks amazing. And it looks like that they're always having a great time and you guys enjoy what you do. And inside, you're kind of like, this is like the circus. I'm kind of getting tired of watching the circus every meeting or every time that we get together or whatever it is. So we as individuals on that team, we don't always necessarily care for that fun coach, the coach that is just out there to, perform and have a circus. It gets a little old after a while. So what happens, we as players and teammates of that coach, we get bored. And we start to lose interest. And we show up and we go through the motions, but it's about all we're doing, right? And it looks like a party on the outside, but on the inside, it's a mess. And that's because people aren't bought in. That's because people aren't engaged within that. So we have to really be careful as being that fun coach that wants to win the popular contest, right? That it's all about popularity. That's not where we want to be. And I'm not saying we can't get there from time to time, and I'm not saying we can't have some fun with those that are on our team. Don't get me wrong. There's a line, right? We can get there. We just can't stay there very long. So very little growth is going to take place within this fun environment. Think about it for a moment. When you go to places that are super fun, you don't really grow, right? It's just a place that we go and we're entertained for a while and we leave. So not a lot of growth takes place, and we lose some respect for a lot of things, and we're not challenged. So we as individuals really do want to be challenged. We'll talk more about that. So the second type of coach we're going to talk about is the grueling coach. And when the grueling coach, I don't know about you, but I think of that drill sergeant type coach that is always right in your face and is just always really intense about things, and there's only one way to do things, and no matter what you do, it's not right, correct? Maybe you've had that coach or you've worked for that individual, and no matter what you did, it wasn't right. There was always something that needed to be fixed. There was always something found wrong. And so that coach leads by fear and intimidation. And when we talk about fear and intimidation, and just by talking about this coach, I start to kind of get anxious, right? I mean, me personally, I start to get anxious. These are definitely coaches I can't play for. These are coaches that I do not do well within their environment. And we have those within our corporation, right? You probably know who they are, and hopefully you're not one of them. But they're there, and they scare us to death. They intimidate us. And we're definitely, what are we worried about the whole time? We're really, really worried about just messing up. So with that, we as players on that team, as individuals, we never dare take a risk. And we never dare think outside of what's going on. And so we kind of just become robotic. And we just want to get the task at hand done and not mess up. That's all we're worried about. And that is not a great place for us to be as individuals. Is intimidation and scared. And I don't know if you've been there or not. I've been there, unfortunately, and it's not a place that I grow, and it's not a place that I become better as a member of that team. So the worst place any team member can be, or any individual can be, the worst place that they can be is in that fear mode all the time and running scared. And you know it and I know it, that we are not going to perform to the best of our ability. We're not going to be thought leaders. We're not going to think outside of the box and help endure to the end of these things. We're always going to be looking for a way out, and that's not what we want either. So, not saying that you will never cross that line, right? It's a little different in the corporate world because you can have some time to think about some things, but one thing that happens in the corporate world is maybe you get reprimanded for something as a head coach that your team's not doing. So what do you want to do? You want to go pass that frustration on to your team, and you want to be a little intimidating, a little frustrated, and it's totally understandable, right? We have to understand it's totally understandable. In the sports world, depending on the sport you're playing, but it's pretty competitive. It's always competitive, and it doesn't really matter what sport you're playing, I guess. It depends on how fast-paced it is. Sometimes we have time to think, and sometimes we don't. If you have time to think, I would not get into this arena if at all possible. It's not a great place to lead from. It's not a great place to coach from. And it's not an environment that your team members are going to grow within. So So just think about that for a moment, if you will. The next part that I want to talk about is the gratifying coach. And this is the happy medium, right? Like, we're going to have some fun from time to time. We're going to be super frustrated from time to time, and we might say things that we regret and we have to apologize for later. It happens, right? And we can apologize. It's okay. And people will appreciate us and respect us more for that. So if we do get there, we can. But the gratifying coach is the area that I believe that we need to spend 95% plus of our time within. And so what does a gratifying coach do? What does a gratifying coach do? Sorry about that. What does a gratifying coach, what is it that a gratifying coach does? There we go. I knew it was somewhere in there. Sorry about that. But anyway, so this coach basically is a gratifying coach. They're going to spend most of their time focused upon their team and what it takes to maximize them. And so it's not just a matter of run in, get mad at somebody, throw a fit, and run out. Or it's not a matter of let's just celebrate the wins and that's all we're going to worry about and we run out, right? There's got to be more to it, or we're going to have a meeting and we're going to bring a soda pop and candy and whatever else to the meetings and have a great big party all the time so that people want to come to the meetings. It's not what we're after as individuals. We're not sold that easily. So what do we really want? So let's talk about the three things as a gratifying coach. This coach spends his or her time figuring out ways to push members to excel but not break. And we really want to be pushed. As individuals, we do want to be pushed. We want to feel like we've accomplished something. So as a coach, how are you doing that? What are you doing to make sure you understand your individuals enough that you can push them? Now, we don't want to break them, of course, but we do want to push them. And we want them to push themselves. We want them to find out that it's okay for them to think and grow on their own. I mean, that's really what we want at the end of the day. We want people that we can put on the floor and they can run our offenses and our defenses. They can apply our strategies and we can watch as a coach and be proud of what they're doing. And that's really what we're after. So we have to have practices in place to make sure that they're feeling satisfied and feeling fulfilled. I mean, that's what gratification is, right? Is being able to feel fulfilled or feel satisfied. So are your team members and your team, is that what they feel? Do they feel satisfied at the end of the day? And I'm not so sure when I get done watching a circus over here that I feel that satisfied. I mean, I might have been entertained, but I don't think I feel satisfied, right? And the same thing with being in the grueling world. I don't know if I ever find self-satisfaction because I'm always scared and I'm always running scared. So that's number one. Number two, as this coach doesn't let popularity or emotions get in the road of progress and satisfaction. Not necessarily worried about the popularity. And at one time in my coaching, I was definitely worried about the popularity, right? I was afraid of being fired. I was afraid that if I didn't do everything right and people didn't like me, they were going to fire me. Well, what I found out by being a coach is the fact that I can still get fired no matter what. And I figured a long time ago that I needed to be comfortable with who I was. And I needed to understand that I'm willing to stand up and I'm willing to run programs and run through things and make people better no matter what that took. And I didn't care if I hit the approval rating of everybody. It's not what I was after. I was after the rating, that knowing that my team was growing and that they felt satisfaction. And at the end of the year, we could look back and say, hey man, we accomplished this, this, and this, and I didn't think we ever would. And that may not come out in the big win-loss column, right? It may not be huge wins, but it was progress. And so in the corporate world, you know, how do we do that? How do we know that we keep moving the needle? You know, how do we keep members involved so that they feel like they're a part of that team and that they don't want to leave and go to another team, that they want to stay there and they feel that they're being pushed and they feel that they are feeling accomplished in what it is that they do, and they're just feeling a lot of satisfaction, because at the end of the day, that's what they're after, is satisfaction. They'll talk to you about a bigger money or a raise, or, you know, think the pasture's greener on the other side if they're not satisfied. And that's where greener pasture on the other side comes from, is they're just not satisfied and it looks more appealing somewhere else. So satisfy them as a coach and make sure that they're taken care of in more ways than just financially. So the third thing is every player wants tested and pushed. They want to feel they have accomplished something and their efforts are worth it. And so when I show up to practice as a player, I want to know that my efforts are noticed. And it's no different with the team members when they show up to a board meeting or to a conference meeting or whatever kind of meeting it is that you have. They want to know that their thoughts and their ideas mean something, and their input means something, and that they're helping move the progress needle a little bit forward, and they get recognized for that. They find gratification in that. So it's not easy being that coach. I understand that. But I can tell you that the more time that we can spend in the middle, it'll be easier to find out which levers we need to pull with everybody. It'll be easier to find out what everybody's desires are. It'll be easier to be able to move people that you never thought that you can move. And that's just simply because you're focused on how can I help them feel satisfied and how can I help them feel fulfilled. And if you can accomplish those two things, people will stay on your team longer and give you more effort. So I hope that helps in understanding the styles of coaching and where we need to spend most of our time. So what are we going to do now to help ourselves become that better, gratifying coach? So there's three things here and three things I want to challenge you on. Number one, the first thing is look at your balance. What's your balance like? Do you swing way to the fact that I just want to be that fun-loving guy, or sometimes I'm just always the drill sergeant? Or are you in the middle, and are you spending the majority of your time in that gratification column, understanding what it is that fulfills other people? So understand where you are and understand what it is that's going to get you the best results. And if you find yourself one way or the other too far, help adjust that. And it's not always easy, but very, very, very well can be done and be taken care of if you will just focus on it. So as far as that goes. So where do you feel most satisfied? Think about that as an individual, as a team player. What coaches help you feel the most satisfaction when it came to being coached or being a team player? The coaches that I can tell you that done the most for me wasn't that fun-loving coach all the time, and it definitely wasn't the drill sergeant. I am not that type of person. You're not going to coach me by getting in my grill, right? It's not going to happen, I can tell you that. So there's two things. So the thing that did the most for me is those guys that made me feel like I was somebody, the person that made me feel like I could accomplish anything, and they gave me some free rein and allowed me to go do it. Those are the people I remember that made the biggest difference in my life. And the truth is, it wasn't really them that made the biggest difference as a coach. It was the fact that they allowed me an opportunity to succeed, and I took that opportunity. And they guided me along the way, but at the end of the day, they just kind of stepped back more so than stepping in the road. So that was big for me. So where do you feel that you grow the most, and are you providing that environment for the people around you? And the last is, what will you do today to help someone else feel gratification, fulfilled or satisfied? What will you do today to go do that? What can you do as a coach right now, as soon as this video is over, to go find somebody and help them feel more accomplished? So that might take some thought on your part, right? It's not easy. We have to sit down and think about it, but it can be done. So I challenge you to go ahead and do that. So in summary, just to kind of sum things up here, if I can put it in a couple of sentences for us that we can take away and use or put on our desk or whatever it might be. It says, as a coach, remember the individuals on your team desire a challenge and they want to feel accomplishment. Your challenge is to provide them with that opportunity. So think about that for a moment. As coaches, understand your team members do want to be challenged. Your team members do want to feel like they've accomplished something. But as a coach, it's our responsibility to provide that opportunity where they can do such. So as always, it's great to be here with you again today. I hope you enjoyed this video and the video series of Coaching 101. What's coming up next for us is basically, it's going to be the framework. There's a framework to everything, right? And so here's some things I put together. There will be some ideas and concepts in there, what we call our framework, that you can use and start building off of, that you can take the things up to this point and add to as well. And then things moving forward. So once again, as always, I hope I added some value to you today and your team. And remember, until we meet again in the next video, that we're always continuing to strive to master ourselves as individuals, maximize those that we're around, and most of all, build those teams that we coach.